Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
7 minutes past 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. It's the Two Blokes Chatting radio show. My name's Neil Butler. The other handsome guy on the other side of the desk, that is Rob Cameron. And Rob, we have got a very special guest, as we often do at this time of the day. Who have we got?
Oh, we have got Marianne van Dorslar as a face that we all knew and loved years ago when we watched telly in a time where television was actually watchable.
She's still on. I walked past the TV and she was on the other day.
She's on the other day. She's talking around. Marianne, good morning and welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Good morning, Two Blokes. Yes, I am still on. Thank you very much.
Oh, see, Rob's now gone out and got himself a job, so he doesn't get to see much daytime TV. I work in one of those offices where there's a TV on, and I walked past the TV the other day and you were on, and I said, "Hey, that's Marianne. I'm talking to her on Saturday morning."
I don't watch much telly because it's not very. I don't know what it's like during the day. It's not much chop at night. Sadly.
Free-to-air television has changed, but it still exists, and it's a bit of a lifeline for people in hospital beds or working out at the gym. They'll see my little face that pop up on my Chemist Warehouse, so what's on in the warehouse segment that I do in the morning television world, but it still exists. So I'm thankful free-to-air does exist. I know young people don't really watch it much these days, but it clearly is still an avenue for a lot of people.
Let's go all the way back to the...
Sorry, the fortunate thing is that Rob's 126, so the young people thing doesn't fall into it.
No, it does not. Let's go all the way back to the start of your television career and how it happened. How did you get into that media segment?
Well, it's interesting. I started off as a young girl doing modelling and becoming a established model in Melbourne, particularly photographic with newspapers and back then, remember them?
Yep.
And that sort of thing, and modelling in catalogues and TV commercials, all that sort of thing, and it was very successful straight away. So I was very pleased because I finished high school and was going to go on to uni, and in that summer break it all sort of took off. Which I really appreciated. And then doing TV commercials, I thought, I like this TV world and, filming and recording and performing, but not as an actor. I wanted to be myself. So I would keep my ear out for any auditions for like the quiz shows, the game shows, which, again, still exist. I just heard that... what's the deal show? The more things change, the more, and the amazing thing is they're promoting it as a new program. Deal or no deal? Deal or no deal? That's coming back. I can't believe it. So,
or sometimes when I'm away, we have this program called Neil or No Neil.
lots of those, and I thought I want to get on one of those game shows, and again auditioned a number of times, and eventually cracked it and got onto Sale of the Century. So that was my first step into television, being one of the models on the game shows, which was a good base to learn and watch and absorb how it all, a program gets put together. And after a couple of years of that, I thought I want to do more than just decorate prizes, and I would like to speak and be noted for who I am. And so I started auditioning for weather segments and that sort of thing. Because, again, in those days, they would actually, I saw an ad in the newspaper to be a newsreader in Traralgon on this, whatever the network is out in Sale Way.
GLV10 as it was in the olden days.
Yeah, and the ad was in the paper, so off I went to Traralgon and auditioned, and I didn't get it. I got to the final 2 or 3. But that audition tape was seen by someone at Channel 7. And so that's how it goes. They contacted me and said, would you like to do fill-in weather? Or at least, try out to be the fill-in weather girl. And I did. And from there, I stayed put. Did the weather, did Tats Lotto, did news updates, and eventually did some news reading for a while, which I really enjoyed, really loved. And so it continued. My my world of television opened up to me once I got into Channel 7 in Melbourne.
One of the things that I think a lot of people would remember you from, Marianne, is your time with Tats Lotto. And
very much so.
I think...
the disappointment she bought me every Saturday night.
Yeah. I think we're allowed to say to people that your son and my daughter were good mates for a while, and therefore we got to know one another a bit. And I remember sitting and chatting to you about the fact your Saturday nights mustn't have been a very social event, because you would be in at Channel 7 at a most inconvenient time of Saturday night.
True, that is correct, but I would just turn up a little bit later to whatever dinner party would be on, looking all glamorous, being made up by professionals, and just swan in late. So I didn't actually miss out too much. The occasional wedding or whatever, I just arrived late. But that job was fantastic. I did Tats Lotto for 22 years, which I really think might be a bit of a world record. I don't know how to investigate that, but years of presenting the lucky numbers. I did it with John Deeks as my co-host, and then Gavin Wood was my co-host. I did a solo as well, depending, what they were doing. And it was a great job. Every Saturday night I'd leave the children with my husband, and off I'd go and be made up and feel special, do the lucky numbers, make somebody rich and come home again. What better job is there? Now,
again, we won't tell too many secrets, but let's say you live in the Bayside area and Channel 7 were at South Melbourne, so you would drive in and you'd be at Channel 7 for how long to do, get made up and do the segment?
Yes, let me just think. What time did I have to get there? I think I had to get there I got there about 7 at night to, be made up and do a rehearsal. We did actually rehearse it beforehand. Then do the draw and be home again by 9, so 2 hours.
for what, 7 minutes of television?
That's right. Yeah. Put my children through school, so I was very grateful to Tattersalls.
Yeah, so you have won Tats Lotto.
Sort of, yeah.
Yes.
A smaller version.
I rarely have ever found or stumbled across a winner. In my whole time, I think I came across 2 people that I actually spoke to that said they had won. One was my postman, but he was in a big, cohort of people and won whatever the amount was. It wasn't huge. Yeah. He was very happy. And the other one was the lady who did my nails.
All right.
So 2 people who actually revealed to me that they had won Division 1, even though it was mixed in with loads of other people. I never have met one of the big winners that won millions. Because, it would have been nice to actually have a chat with them and find out how it changed their life. But everyone wanted to be private and still do if they win that sort of money.
The other fascinating relationship that I'm sure must have at least chatted to them were the 9.7 milliseconds that the government officials were shown on TV. The government officials were always there. They always looked incredibly thrilled to be there.
Yes, it was a funny little setup, wasn't it? But that was all legit for government officials, and no one was able to handle the balls, the lucky numbers, other than them, and go through rehearsal, and everything was locked and secured. And yes, they enjoyed their little few seconds of camera time, and then off they went.
But it was never, David Smith, government official. We've got our government officials, the unnamed government officials.
Yes, that mystery group. It's a bit like they were, CIA or something.
Marianne, I was intrigued with your early discussion about your formative career, and it seemed to be you doing all the work. In this day and age, any young person who has any talent, their parents immediately assign them to a manager. So did you have anyone assisting you in those early days, or all those requests for rehearsals and time and pushing yourself forward? Was that just you constantly doing that background work?
Look, I probably would have to say it was more me, and still is today. Then I did have a model agent at the time, but they weren't involved in getting me beyond the quiz shows, the game shows. And again, today, I have representation, but largely it's directly me. It's relationships you build with people, connections you make, reminders you give. That's really how I've found always it works, that having that relationship with someone who either likes you or thinks you might be able to help them, or you think you might be able to help them, and you build on that. But agents, of course, they're there and they take their percentage, and if they get you something great, but you're one of many, on the books. So I think you have to pretty much knock on the door yourself and try and get yourself further, which is pretty much what I did along my career.
But that would have been very good for your own character development too as a young person, I imagine. I mean, you've got a little bit of notoriety through the start as a model, but to strengthen your own personal character, it must have been very, very helpful.
Well, that's right. I think I'm fortunate in that I'm clearly a confident person and an outgoing person, and I know that not everybody is like that at all. For the last 15 years, I've been teaching presentation skills for a company as one of my other sort of strings to my bow, if you like, and that really revealed to me that so many people aren't confident, aren't sure of themselves. They feel like imposters, and we all have a bit of that imposter syndrome, but you've got to take the step and put yourself out there. A lot of people need the encouragement to do that. So I consider myself very fortunate that I always felt like, I could give it a go. What's there to lose? And took those opportunities. But of course, I'm aware that a lot of people don't feel like that. So building people's confidence to go ahead, knock on that door, pick up that phone, whatever it might be, is key, I think, to extending yourself and going further in whatever your career is.
And I imagine the environment now for a young person with talent trying to burst into media in any area at the moment would have been a lot different to when you started. So as part of your teaching of the young people to also deal with the disappointment and keep surging on?
Yes, I think that's very important what you've just said there. Dealing with knockbacks, dealing with rejection, and being able to pick yourself up and go along. I think that's when young people say to me, or a person says, I'd like to do modelling, for instance. What do I do? What do you think? And they might have all the physical attributes to be a model. But I say, well, the first thing is, how do you cope with knockbacks, with rejection, with being told you're not right, or even not being told, just never hearing from you. You've got to have that sort of resilience in any sphere of, I think, showbiz, actually. You've got to be able to not take things personally, and that sort of armour, if you like, you've got to learn how to build that up in yourself, and I think today with social media, etc., the kids have to put up with that also. They either fall to pieces with it, or they can steel themselves against it, ignore it, and move on. So it is a different world today, of course, with social media being a huge part of promoting yourself, if you like. I'm glad, actually, I don't really have to deal with that side of things. It doesn't particularly affect me. But I think for a young person starting out today, that is a whole other section that they have to deal with. But, resilience is key, to just be able to get up, dust yourself off and believe in yourself.
There are so many different doors that you were able to open. Are those doors still available to young people these days, or has the industry changed a lot and getting that? I see a lot of ex-musicians or sports people tend to get first dibs at a lot of media roles. That's changed a lot. So perhaps the opportunity isn't there as it was.
Well, that's true. It isn't there as it was, but there's a whole other area of opportunity with the social media side. Their reach is out there to a world, if you like. They won't just connect with their local community. Musicians are discovered on social media all the time, aren't they? I have a son, as you know, Neil, that is now a YouTuber. That's his job. And I just can't believe that's a job. And his reach is, Australia is a tiny dot for him. He connects with people all around the world this way. So they, in a way, have even more opportunities open to them, because people can find them from all over the world. And that's amazing, I think, those opportunities for musicians, for comedians, singers, for, whether it turns out to be a career, but their reach is far greater and they can promote themselves constantly if they use the right channels.
Well, I think the thing too, Marianne, is that, when you were going through, you advertised that you answered an ad in the paper and someone said thumbs up or thumbs down, whereas now there is no thumbs down. You can promote yourself through YouTube and any other form of social media, I guess. So that need for resilience is probably a different need for resilience.
Yes, it's more against resilience against trolls and people saying horrible things.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't ever get the feedback that they're getting now on social media back when you just got a yes or a no, I suspect, back in those days.
Exactly. So you didn't hear the whys and the wherefores or because of this or because of that.
Yes.
Now they do, and that would be pretty hard to take, I think. But again, you've got to believe that you are right, you can do it, and eventually you'll crack it. I also think that self-belief and positive thinking is I know it's not the be-all and end-all, but you've got to think that way. Negativity doesn't get you anywhere. You have to be, not just believe in yourself, but be positive about that, because people can sense that about you and think, oh, well, we'll give them a go because they seem to think they can do it, so we'll believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if we had been doing this conversation 40 years ago and there was no such thing as an influencer, the role you play now wouldn't have been called an influencer back in those days. It would have been called an endorser or something. The concept of an influencer on Instagram, how does that sit with you?
Interesting. I think it's a different skill, I've seen influencers have to perform at, like, for instance, Chemist Warehouse, who I present segments for. They have, of course, brand ambassadors, influencers. They're a big part of promotion these days and reach, because they reach a lot of people. So they're very important to have influencers and brand ambassadors and people who have their own following, because you can connect to so many people. But to do, for instance, my job, it's a separate craft. It's a separate skill. So they have their role and their following and their reach and their connection with their group. But I think if you were to put them in my role, it would be a very different thing, because they're not necessarily that sort of person. They're behind a camera, behind a computer screen, doing what they do. Put them out in front of an audience, a live audience, or a camera that is going to be broadcast. It's a different skill, and I'm not saying they wouldn't have it, but an influencer is a different role to being a presenter in what I do. But that can be, of course, just as good at that, but it is a different skill set. Same as when people say, you want to do acting along the way. I said, no, I'm not trained to be an actor. I haven't done the hard yards to be an actor. I can be myself on camera, and that's it. I can't be anyone else because I'm not trained. It's not my thing. So I recognise there are all different skill sets, and an influencer is a separate skill set.
Because I think one of the things that strikes me about you, and whenever I see you on the TV, I sort of stop and look at the product that you're promoting, talking about, whatever the right term is. And if Marianne says it's okay, I reckon it's okay. You're a very believable and genuine person, and whereas I often get the influencers are only doing it to make themselves famous, if that makes sense. Whereas I think that skill set that you've built up, I would just, if someone said one word to describe you, I'd say believable. Is that fair?
Oh, well, thank you. That is such a nice compliment. That is really, really nice to hear. Yeah, I do sort of think credibility, a certain amount of authority, and sincerity. If those words can be attached to me, I am very grateful, because that's how I would like to come across. And I think that stems in my time where I did do news reading at Channel 7, where you had to have that sincerity and credibility, as well as delivering news with authority. I think that was a great training ground for what I then continued to do. And, those sort of words are also used when I MC functions. People have to believe in what the MC is saying, who is really just controlling the room and the event. So I have used that, if you like, that skill all through my career. And I've been very appreciative and grateful if people feel that from when they are in the room with me or doing a job with me. If they have a sense of that, that's a lovely compliment. Thank you.
I actually looked at your show reel just by way of reminding me of some of the brands, and I almost sold up and moved to Tokenwool on the strength of the villas that you were promoting up there.
A retirement village, I think it was.
Yeah, there was actually a fella that was in a number of those videos that I thought, he keeps popping up.
He looks familiar.
Yes, he does. Marianne, it's been great to catch up, and we should actually do this off the radio at some stage and catch up for a coffee at some stage, but it's just, you're the sort of person who pops up on TV regularly, but not sort of one that people, if you said name 25 people you've seen on the TV, you're kind of just part of the world, and I think that's great.
I just stay along in the background, under the radar, but I'm still there. And Neil, I'm very grateful that I am still there. I still have work and a career at this end of my career. And, I couldn't be more grateful that I've been able to stay on camera and on screen in whatever form for, close to 40 years. So I'm very pleased about that.
Marianne, I was going to ask you on the back of Neil's commentary about believability, which I endorse, but some of the scripts you have for the Chemist Warehouse stuff, they're interesting. You present them very professionally, but do you and the cohorts have a bit of a giggle off screen? And in fact, do you say to the producer, hey, can we just do this a bit differently?
Rob, were you in the room, were you? Yes, we do occasionally have a giggle, and in fact, I recorded some yesterday, and I said, I think this one might end up on the cheap seats.
Yeah, I'm a cheap seats watcher, and that's where because I don't see daytime television, I see a bit of you on there. Do you enjoy that little bit of tongue-in-cheek notoriety?
Absolutely. I think it's great to laugh at yourself, and I think they're very clever, those two, on the cheap seats. Yeah,
it's a good show, and I think the thing that I like about it, it's done very respectfully. They have as much fun as you probably have behind the camera.
That's right. And, scripting for that sort of thing, again, it's not our job to do those scripts. We can't change them because they've been, stamp of approval from legal and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
We're not allowed to change the wording as much as occasionally I would like to.
Because you don't really want to live in Tocumwell, do you? I know, that's a nice part of the world, but, I don't know about that.
I must say, I asked that question, Marianne, with a bit of trepidation, but I thank you for the honesty that you answered it with. It was hoping what you would have said.
Yeah. No, we have to stick to the script, and that's what we do.
Good on you.
Well, when we told people at work during the week that I was going to be talking to you, it was funny the different responses I got. Oh, that's the lady who did Tats Lotto, wasn't it? That's the lady who did Fella Hamilton. Oh, that's the lady who... everyone associates you with a product, and I guess, again, that's got to be a sort of an endorsement of what you've been doing over the years.
Well, I guess it is, and I don't mind as long as they remember me.
That's very good.
They do indeed. Marianne, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Saturday morning. I suppose you've got plenty of other things that you could have been doing, but to spend some time with a couple of blokes from Geelong, we certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure, Neil and Rob. Thanks very much for the call.
All the very best.
There she is, Marianne van Dorslar, a person who... Had she been doing it 40 years ago, we would have called her an influencer, I guess. But these days, television media personality and almost a legend of TV, I would have said these days.
Oh, I would have thought so, yeah. One of those recognisable faces. If her name appeared on the birthday list, as I'm sure it will one day, I won't be going, who's that?